For you.
Good morning. Time now is 4:27. It is July 1st. I'm Meredith Barrick. Thanks for joining us. And July 1st means a bunch of brand new laws now on the books here in Indiana. We are going to break down what all those new laws mean for you and other Hoosiers. Those new laws include Hoosier farmers are now allowed to grow and produce hemp. People convicted of animal abuse cannot own, keep, or train a dog or cat for the duration of their probation or parole. And revenge porn is now outlawed. Our Aaron Lish is going to be breaking down each and every single new law that could affect you and your family later this morning on Good Morning Indiana. It's going to be one you're going to want to stick around for, so you're in the know of these new laws. Police in Greenwood are looking for a missing 13-year-old girl. Valentina LaCava was last seen 10 days ago at her home. Police want to know where she could be. If you recognize this young girl, only 13 years old, or have any information on her whereabouts, they are asking that you call the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. They want her family wants her to come home safely. All right, Todd, it is going to be another scorcher out there today, and then unfortunately rain returns.
Yeah, you know, it's summer now. You know, we have the heat, we have the humidity, and a lot of times when you have those two combinations, you have storms. And we're not looking at any all-day rain, so that's good news. But hopefully we'll time everything out for fireworks here later on this week. So right now we're at 68 in Indianapolis, as well as Logansport, 70 in Kokomo, and radar is quiet. We had some severe storms yesterday in the western and southern portion of central Indiana. They did not impact Indianapolis and points off towards the north and east. They shouldn't be as widespread as they were yesterday, but as we get into the peak heating of the day today, once again, we'll flare up these spotty storms in spots. Probably not looking at severe weather here throughout the day today, but some lightning and heavy rainfall as well. But the big story, the heat and humidity. Once again today, getting up to about 91 degrees.
Wow.
Those heat index values climbing into that 95 to probably 98 degree territory. So it's hot. Drink plenty of water and have that sunscreen handy here throughout the day today.
Yeah, make sure pets aren't outside too long and check on your neighbors who are elderly too. Always a good idea when the weather gets like this. And obviously people going to be keeping a close eye on the weather over the next couple days to make sure their 4th of July plans go off without a hitch. And in Noblesville, volunteers are needed for their 4th of July fireworks festival. They need people to consider donating just a few hours. That's all they're asking to make sure this event runs smoothly and is enjoyable for all the families there in the Noblesville area. So we will have more information on how you can get involved in that. Plus, we've got news, weather, and traffic here to kick off your Monday morning, right here on Good Morning Indiana.
This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
The last train has left the station for the Hoosier State Line. Now at 4:30, while customers say losing the rail service is a step back for Hoosiers. Plus, an Indiana company is recalling thousands of fireworks. Working for you, the defect that left one child missing part of his hand. Plus, a growing scam promises to make you easy money. This morning, the tips you need to know to avoid falling victim. Thanks for joining us here on this Monday morning. I'm Meredith Barrick. Elena Martella here, keeping an eye on the roadways. A lot of construction underway. And Todd Clausen here with a hot forecast. We're kicking July off the only way we know how, in the 90s.
Right, and it's going to be in the 90s at least for probably a couple more days before we start to cool it off back into the mid-80s. But overall, very summer-like forecast here for us this morning. Actually, not that bad. We're in the 60s right now, 68 in Indianapolis, officially out at the airport. And this is actually seasonable for this time of year. The difference is later on this afternoon, we get back up into the low 90s, and that's what's unseasonable for this time of year here in central Indiana. Of course, it happens all the time. It's just a little bit above normal, I guess is probably a better way to put it for you here this morning. 64 in Crawfordsville, 67 in Bloomington, 73 in Muncie, and 70 is the current temperature as you make your way over into the Richmond area. Radar is quiet, very active yesterday afternoon and evening from Lafayette down towards the Bloomington area. And as we expand out, you notice skies are partly cloudy here across the area. We have some storms that are diving south across parts of Illinois. Those will not impact us this morning. The storms we have in the forecast are just the ones we're going to manufacture today with the heat and humidity as we get into the peak heating of the day. So high temperatures will quickly climb through the 80s by the noon hour into the low 90s eventually this afternoon as we get into that 5 and 6 o'clock hour. So hot and humid, plenty of water and sunscreen, the name of the game today if you're going to be out and about. The time now 4:31. Let's get a first look at traffic on this work week. Here's Elena.
All right, thank you, Todd. The good news is no major problems like crashes out there right now, but there are some problems with road work. The good news, though, that northwest side, those northbound lanes of I-65, they're back open just in time for your morning drive, so you can breathe a sigh of relief if you are a Boone County driver. We do have northbound I-65 closed between the south and the north split, as well as eastbound I-70 closed between 465 and the south split. So to get around both of these, what you can do, continue on 465, go all the way up to I-65, and then head northbound, which you can do now, or southbound if you are heading to the downtown area. So keep this in mind. This should open back up by 6 o'clock this morning, but I'll, of course, let you know when it does. Let's take a look at this area right now. Here's a look at I-65 at Fletcher Avenue. You can see that one direction, those southbound lanes moving through just fine. Northbound lanes still closed. Let's take a turn over to I-70 at Sam Jones Expressway. You can see it's pretty dark out there. Those roads are dry for your morning drive. It makes for an easy commute.
Elena, thank you. This morning, the Hoosier State train line will not be transporting passengers from Indianapolis to Chicago. The line has been operating 4 days a week since 1999, but ended service on Sunday. Earlier this year, the Indiana legislature decided to cut the train's funding of $3 million per year. Passengers who climbed on board for that final ride to Chicago say losing the train is a huge step backwards for Hoosiers, particularly those without bus service.
Indiana is really suffering a loss along the communities of the line, especially, Lafayette, Rensselaer, places that are, really small, don't have, necessarily good access to big cities without using I-65. It's just really disheartening to see the government not really care about these small cities.
The Cardinal line will still continue to offer service between Indianapolis and the Windy City 3 days a week. The route between Indy and Chicago is part of a longer route connecting Chicago and New York City. A new bus service connecting Indy and Chicago is preparing to make its inaugural trip to Chicago. The service, called Our Bus, is operated locally by Gold Shield Indy and promises new state-of-the-art buses, complete with free Wi-Fi, power outlets, and extra legroom, all for $10 per trip. The service's website says the first trip to Indy is scheduled for 7:30 this morning. Return trips leave Chicago at 5 p.m. Central Time. A warning this morning for pet owners as temperatures begin hovering around that 90-degree mark. Indianapolis Animal Care Services is seeing an increase in calls regarding animals being left outside. Keep in mind, there is a Marion County ordinance requiring all pets to be brought inside or be in a temperature-controlled facility when temperatures reach 90 degrees or higher. Pet owners are also encouraged to watch for the following signs of a heat stroke. Those can include panting, staring, warm, dry skin, and a rapid heartbeat. Parts of Beech Grove High School are a total loss after a tornado damaged the building last month. That includes the Science Academy and its 3 classrooms and the Hornet Enrichment Academy, formerly known as the Media Center. District leaders shared the update on Friday. They also say the school is closed to the public as cleanup and construction continues. This morning, we are working to learn the name of a burglary suspect who drowned in a West Side retention pond after running from officers. Police responded to a burglary at the clubhouse of the Waterfront Terrace Apartments Saturday morning. That's near 34th and Muller Road. Authorities say at least 2 suspects ran from police. One of the suspects went into a retention pond and drowned. Fire department crews later recovered the body. 2 juvenile suspects were arrested on suspicion of burglary. A man is recovering after being shot in Marion. Police say it all happened because he refused to give the suspect a cigarette. Marion police arrested 21-year-old Delance Arlonzo Scaife. They say he shot a man after he refused to give him a cigarette. It all happened near 14th Street and South Adams Street around 11:30 Friday night. Police say the victim was taken to the hospital in stable condition. Thousands of fireworks bought in southeastern Indiana are being recalled after an accident caused a boy to lose his hand. Grandma's Fireworks in West College Corner near Connorsville is pulling 18 products from its shelves. That's 25,000 individual fireworks. The products include names like Rise to the East, Angry Elf, and Crazy Robot Flowers. The fireworks are apparently overloaded with pyrotechnics, which can cause bigger than expected explosions. In March, a 12-year-old boy lost his hand after the broken end of a rocket exploded. The U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission says anyone who purchased the fireworks should immediately stop using them and return them for a full refund. The Better Business Bureau of Central Indiana is warning about a growing scam that can trick even the savviest of people. Jenny Alley of Cloverdale has a timeshare in Branson, Missouri, but it's too expensive, so she wants to get rid of it. She got a call from a company offering to buy it. Jenny researched the company's name and it was legitimate, or so she thought. Turns out the scammers were posing as real timeshare resellers. Now Jenny is out thousands of dollars in fees she sent to the fake company. The Better Business Bureau says this scam is huge right now as many Hoosiers look to unload timeshares.
How much money? In all, I'm out $4,100.
And what kind of money is that to you?
I mean, that's a month's pay for me. So that means bills could potentially not get paid if, I never see that money again.
The Better Business Bureau investigated a timeshare company called D&W International Closings. Its address is in downtown Indianapolis, but Call 6 Investigates found the business does not even exist. Bottom line, there are legitimate businesses that will buy timeshares, but many are a scam. So make sure you know who you're dealing with and never wire money. President Trump making history this weekend by becoming the first sitting president to visit North Korea. Straight ahead, the latest on the efforts to bring peace to the Korean Peninsula. Plus, the CDC just approved new guidelines for the HPV vaccine. After the break, how the changes could impact more people in your household. Todd.
And the thunderstorms from last night have now moved out of central Indiana. It's a quiet start to our Monday. You notice more storms, though, to our west and northwest. We'll talk about our storm chances this afternoon, as well as the heat and humidity that's sticking around coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 4:38. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sponsored by Citizens Energy Group.
Welcome back to Good Morning Indiana. Time now 4:41. Here's a look at I-465 at Michigan Road up on the north side. Traffic's moving along just fine for your morning drive. Stay tuned. I'll have your latest update coming up in the next few minutes.
Elena, thank you. Here's a look at the news expected to make headlines today as Wimbledon kicks off today at the All England Club. Serbia's defending champion Novak Djokovic is considered to be the player to beat in the men's singles. The big three, which includes Djokovic, Roger Federer, and Rafael Nadal, continue to dominate men's singles, having won the past 10 Grand Slam titles between. The trio have won 53 of the past 64 majors. Closing arguments are set to begin today in the trial of Navy SEAL Eddie Gallagher. A jury of 5 Marines, 2 sailors, and 1 SEAL will decide the fate of the 19-year veteran. Gallagher is accused of multiple violations of military law in Iraq, including murdering a prisoner and posing for a photo next to a corpse. Many SEALs testified, including one who stunned the court when he testified that he was in fact the one who killed the militant. Gallagher has pleaded not guilty to the charges. If convicted, he faces life in prison. President Trump is now back at the White House after a 4-day trip to Asia. While there, he became the first sitting U.S. president to step on North Korean soil, and this morning is describing his meeting with the North Korean leader as wonderful. But are they closer to a nuclear deal? As Andrea Fuji has more from Washington, New York.
President Trump back in Washington, tweeting this video of his meeting with North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un. History made as he became the first sitting U.S. president to step into the country.
My friend.
President Trump made the surprise visit to the demilitarized zone following the G20 summit, where he met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Speaking with Fox News' Tucker Carlson, the president seemed optimistic that the U.S. and China are closer to a trade deal.
We had a very good meeting. He wants to make a deal. I want to make a deal. Very big deal. Probably, I guess you'd say, the largest deal ever made of any kind, not only trade. We got along very well. We understand each other.
But it was President Trump's meeting with Kim Jong-un that's received the most media attention, which at times became chaotic as the two men walked back into the South Korean side of the border.
Come on. Move.
And in a rare move, the reclusive North Korean leader spoke directly to American reporters.
I believe, just looking at this action, this is an expression of his willingness to eliminate all the unfortunate past and open a new future.
The last round of nuclear talks with North Korea failed, but now its state media is hailing this meeting as successful. Despite all of the symbolism with this meeting, there is still no concrete progress for North Korea to give up its nuclear weapons. But President Trump says they will resume talks to try to get to a nuclear deal. In New York, Andrea Fujii, ABC News.
The Florida man accused of dragging a deputy during a traffic stop is expected to appear in court this morning. During the stop, the deputy asked 38-year-old Rocky Rudolph if there's marijuana in the car and asked Rudolph to turn the vehicle off. Police say he refuses and starts to drive off with the officer holding onto the car. The officer pulls a gun and orders him to stop, but he appears to grab for the gun. Police say the officer was treated and released from a hospital. Rudolph faces several charges, including attempted murder of a law enforcement officer. The death of a Clemson University student remains under investigation this morning. It happened early yesterday morning just off campus. Police say 20-year-old Thomas Few fell off a rooftop patio. Authorities say they do not suspect foul play, but believe alcohol may have been a contributing factor. Students on campus say it puts life in perspective.
I mean, it could be you, it could be one of your friends. I mean, anytime anything like that happens.
The fraternity Thomas Few belonged to is working with police during the investigation. More than 30 cows are safe near Rochester, Minnesota this morning. Officials say the cows were swept away by fast-moving floodwaters. The cow's owner says 21 are still missing, but he does know some cows ended up about 7 miles downstream. National Weather Service officials say heavy rain on Friday caused rivers to swell quickly. More rain is expected to fall in that area later this week. Here at home, time now is 4:46. A dry start to our day, Todd, but that'll change this afternoon.
Yeah, you know, we're going to build in these isolated storms once again this afternoon. We've done almost every day with this heat and humidity that's made its way into central Indiana. They were a little more numerous yesterday across the area as we kind of had a complex of storms coming through, but Saturday they were very, very spotty, and that's going to be the case later on this afternoon. Here's a live look outside right now. As you look off in the distance, you see plenty of lights. That means our visibility is nice and good here this morning. 68 degrees, the current temperature. The winds are out of the west at 7 miles per hour. Sunrise officially this morning is at 6:21. So the dew point today is still in that uncomfortable range. I always tell you, anytime we start to get into the upper 60s and especially into the 70s, that's when things start to become very uncomfortable across the area. And you notice the dew point will start off in the mid 60s here this morning, so it's not terrible as you walk out the door. You'll notice some humidity, but then we get into that low 70-degree range, and that's where we really stay throughout much of the day today. So it's not going to be a very, very comfortable day for us here across the area. Temperatures are currently in the 60s and 70s across the area this morning. As far as the 70s, only Muncie's hanging on to that number, but that thermometer always runs a little bit warm. It's 69 right now in Richmond, 65 as you make your way over into the Crawfordsville area. So this morning we quickly climbed through the 70s. In fact, we're probably at 80 degrees already by 10 a.m. and then into the mid 80s for your lunch hour. Then eventually high temperatures today will be climbing up into the 90s. We've done it now 2 days in a row. We should get there once again this afternoon with just those spotty storm chances starting to build in across the area. So here's what it looks like right now. We have partly cloudy skies. We'll have a good sunrise here across the area with the sun mixing in with some clouds. And as far as rain goes, you see 2 clumps of rain here. One is making its way through central Illinois. That is pushing to the south. You do not have to worry about that. Then we have more storms up near Minneapolis. This is the main storm track, and this is going right around the periphery of the real hot air that's in place. So this is going to make its way through Wisconsin and then eventually into Michigan. So that will not impact us here in central Indiana. We'll just manufacture some isolated storms here this afternoon with the peak heating of the day. They should be pretty spotty in nature. There's no need to cancel any outdoor plans if you do have them in the forecast for today. By far the biggest concern is going to be the heat and humidity across the area. But nonetheless, these storms will be possible as we work our way into this afternoon. And then again tomorrow during the heat and humidity, we'll start to flare up some storms. So when you look at our 7-day planning forecast, which I'll show you here in just a second, everything's very spotty today and tomorrow, and then the storms become more numerous, unfortunately, as we get closer to the 4th of July. So overnight tonight, we only get back down into the 70s. For the day tomorrow, more scattered storms, a high temperature of 91 degrees. As you look at your 7-day planning forecast, we have the spotty storms through Tuesday and Wednesday. Then they become a little more numerous, unfortunately, as we get towards the 4th of July. And with the better storm chances, a little more in the way of cloud cover, temperatures slightly cooler, but still actually above normal, with highs that'll eventually be up into the mid to upper 80s. Elena?
All right, thank you, Todd. Here's a look on our northwest side right now. I-465 at 86th Street. You can see traffic's moving along just fine. Actually looks like a fair amount of people on the roadways right now for this hour, but the roads are dry. Let's take a look at the map coming in from the northwest side, heading southbound on I-65 from I-865 down to I-70. Should run you about 17 minutes. So traffic's moving along just fine right now. Let's take one last look at those roads. I-65 at I-465 on the south side. Rings true no matter where you're headed right now. If you're heading out the door, should be smooth sailing.
Elena, thank you. The human papillomavirus vaccine has new guidelines, and they include more age groups being advised to get the preventative vaccine. The CDC Committee on Immunization Practices recommends men get the vaccine through age 26. That mirrors the age advised for women. The CDC also updated recommendations for adults ages 27 to 45 who haven't been vaccinated to talk to their doctors about getting immunized. HPV vaccines are not licensed for anyone over 45. Children should still start receiving doses around 11 or 12. HPV is often spread through sex and can lead to 6 cancer types. NASA is living like it's 1969 after the break, the massive renovation being taken on by the organization to help tell the Apollo 11 story. And the calendar changes to July 1st means new laws hit the books in the Hoosier State. Coming up new at 5, our Aaron Lish is taking a look at how some of those new laws may impact you.
I'm Vinny Politan. Today on Court TV, the penalty phase in the trial of Scott Nelson begins. We are live in Orlando as a jury of 12 people must decide whether or not Scott Nelson will get the ultimate punishment for the ultimate crime. It's the penalty phase where the jury must decide life in prison or the death penalty. Last week they convicted him. Today begins the penalty phase.
And don't forget, you can watch the all-new Court TV live on your mobile device by visiting CourtTV.com. We'll be right back. NASA is going back in time. The space agency is restoring its Apollo Mission Control Center at its Johnson Space Center in Houston. The iconic room will look just as it did on July 20th, 1969. That's the day Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Crews have restored the room's consoles as well as the simulation control room used for tests. They even brought back the visitors' viewing room where family members of the astronauts could see what was happening. The restoration is part of NASA's big celebration of the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. Parking tickets are a pain, but Las Vegas is letting their residents pay up in a different way. For 1 month, if you get a ticket in Las Vegas, you can pay it back with school supplies. Instead of your typical parking fee, the Las Vegas City Council is accepting classroom supplies like paper, pens, erasers, and sticky notes. The council says the supplies must be of greater or equal value to the parking ticket. All the supplies will be donated to a local nonprofit. A Las Vegas City councilor says the program first started in 2016. A great idea there. But we would gladly pay a parking ticket if our car looked like this. Huge swarms of mayflies flocked to northeast Ohio's lakeshore, resulting in blankets of bugs. In fact, the swarm was so dense it was picked up on a local news station's weather radar. It may look like nightmare fuel, but mayflies are actually harmless and they only live for a couple of days. So hopefully that person had nowhere urgent they needed to be, Todd.
Right. And I think the guy running the parking meters, if he saw that there, he'd probably just like, you're good.
Yeah.
You know, just pass on.
You get a pass.
We'll get you next go around. So, all right, outside right now, we're dealing with quiet conditions. No issues here weather-wise for your morning commute, but as we get into the afternoon hours, we'll just build in the chance of an isolated downpour here or there. Nothing really widespread today, but the heat is going to be an issue. 91 with heat index values around 95. More of the same for tomorrow. Slightly cooler as we head into the middle of the week with highs backing into the upper 80s. But as we get into the upper 80s, storms become more numerous by the 4th of July and beyond. We'll talk more about your 7-day and look ahead even further coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 4:57. Stay with us. We'll be right back.